Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Unravel Your Mind. We're here to transform relationships to love and to life. I always love your questions. We answer them each week and channel whatever wisdom is supposed to come through for all of these 3D Earth life dimensional questions and drama and all these things that are happening to us. And we go into the higher realms and answer them from another perspective. So let's get started on this week's questions. There's some good ones here, and we're going to just jump right in. Question number 1. I'm embarrassed to ask this question, but here it goes. When my mind is spinning with unwanted thoughts, I know I can shift my state by drinking alcohol. All my problems don't feel as heavy, and I can have fun and escape. So, why do the people in the spiritual community think they shouldn't drink alcohol? Is it bad? Well, there's, I think, a lot of different ways that this question can be answered. And what comes to me to share right now is that I don't think we have to look at alcohol as bad. I think that we often do that because we know that there's some downsides to alcohol physically in our body when it comes to inflammation. There's also, addiction and abuse and escaping, right? So I think that's where we want to focus our time, is thinking about, am I drinking alcohol to escape? Or am I drinking alcohol to just enjoy life in the moment? And I think they're two very, very, very different ways to look at this. I also think that you can have ceremonial alcohol intake, which means that you actually are looking to get some of the lessons that come when you've shifted your state a little bit. Now, people in the spiritual community or in general who are raising their vibration, their vibration of their cells, they're eating healthy, they're really pulling in source intelligence and pulling it through and connecting to this higher vibrational, higher self. Sometimes drinking alcohol actually lowers their vibration, and they're actually not getting the effects that someone who's already maybe in a lower vibration might be feeling. And when they drink alcohol, there's the illusion that their vibration is actually rising. So it's, first of all, it's brain chemistry, right? And back to the ceremonial aspect of it, if you're actually raising your vibration, let's say you're the person that's in a lower vibrational state and you drink alcohol and you feel like it's raising your vibration, then I would recommend that you journal, go home and take advantage of the buzz, right? And start journaling, like what's coming to me. Because oftentimes when we drink alcohol, if we're raising our vibration in that illusionary state, we get new ideas. We become invincible. We think we can do a lot more. We're gregarious. We talk to people at parties, right? So there's lots of things that happen from a brain chemistry perspective when we drink. And so I'm just here to say, if you are choosing to drink, first of all, I wouldn't go into self-judgment about it. And again, I'm speaking to situations where we're not abusing or overindulging or consistently drinking alcohol. I'm talking about the occasional, hey, I want to go out and have a little fun and I don't want to deprive myself of being part of a social situation. I think it's a lot about what you think, right? Same thing about when you eat something. It's like what you think while you're partaking in the activity has a much greater impact on you than you might think. And so if you're going to go out, just make a decision like, hey, I'm going to have a drink tonight and be happy about it. And if you want to come home and journal about, hey, like what's coming through? Like, what am I excited about? What's making me feel in this higher vibrational state? Write it down. What am I going to do with it tomorrow? What does this mean to my life? Like, what does this have to do with my soul's plan? Right? Asking some of those questions that bring it back into a more spiritual realm. Now, if you're in a place in your life where your vibration is so high that you actually feel when you drink alcohol that you lower your vibration, then absolutely there's no reason to be drinking alcohol, right? I mean, there's never necessarily a reason, but I'm just saying that then if you're in that state, then just come up with an alternative drink that you're going to have that doesn't have alcohol, right? So you just have that go-to, because sometimes it socially can be awkward when if you're just with your spiritual tribe and all the people that have similar thoughts and beliefs than you, then it's super easy because nobody's really drinking and it's just not even an issue. But we know as we're on this ascension journey that we often have situations where we're integrating more of our third dimensional life and our more five dimensional aspects of ourselves, and that we kind of get caught in the crossfire of it, and it can be a little bit more difficult. So I would recommend that in that case that you just have a go-to drink. Maybe it's just cranberry juice and seltzer, right? Like, it's something that feels festive, looks festive. um, maybe it's in a wine glass, right? Or something that just feels like you're participating, and then you don't have to deal with any of the social backlash of why aren't you drinking, or all of those things that are just unnecessary. So I think first and foremost, don't worry about what anybody else thinks, and the spiritual community included. Feel into what's right for you. What's right for my body. Is taking in alcohol something that's causing more inflammation for me when I'm already at a time where I just need to eat healthier, and I need to have liquids that are fortifying for me as opposed to draining for me? Tune in to the thoughts that you're having around it, right? It's not one of those situations where you want to be judging yourself for doing something. Make a decision before you go out. I'm going to drink, or I'm not going to drink, or I'm going to be in the flow of it. I'm just not going to have the judgment around it, right? That's where things get sticky. And of course, if you actually are someone who feels that they have a problem with alcohol and that it's actually running or ruling your life, then that's a whole different question. And I think we have one that's similar. So stay tuned, because we'll have another question about that, I think, that's coming up later. All right. Hopefully that answers the question. I love to hear comments in the chat. Let me know, how often do you drink, and what do you think when you're drinking? Are you thinking positive thoughts, or are you actually self-judging and saying, "Oh, I shouldn't have had a drink"? I'd love to hear from you. So write me in the comments. Okay, let's go to question number 2. I'm pretty sure my brother-in-law would prefer I not be at their home for Christmas. I always have to ask my sister if I can come, and it feels awkward. I want to spend the holidays with my 2 nieces, and I don't want to make other plans. I know my sister wants me there, but she's caught in the middle of it. It makes me feel like an outsider at one of the most significant times of the year. How can I feel better about this? Well, it is all about your own state of mind, right? We can't change other people. Oftentimes, we can't change situations, but we can change how we view through our own lens what's happening. I'm sure that you've probably already done this, which is tune into, what's happening for your brother-in-law. There's a wound there, there's a glitch there, there's a annoyance there, there's something that's not jiving for him to want to have you there. And whether you figure out what that is or not, I don't think is as important as really tuning in to yourself, and how am I going to show up in a way that I'm not like ignoring this situation, but that I'm also not becoming so absorbed in it that then all I do is get reflections from my brother-in-law that they don't want me there, right? So it's tuning in, and it's maybe asking the questions. Maybe it is having a conversation before the event. If that's not comfortable, it doesn't feel appropriate, they wouldn't be open to it, then maybe it's about just going with your best foot forward and the biggest smile and the brightest glow in your heart, and just shining that for everyone, right? And also, I think showing up and actually expressing how you feel, the good parts of it, like, hey, I am just so happy that I'm here with you guys. Thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this. Sharing that part as opposed to wallowing in the other feelings, even when you feel like when you're there that you might feel that, ooh, that rub, or that glitch. Just really sit with how you want to feel, and how you want to feel is appreciated and valued and a part of the family. And so it can be a tough one, I know, but switching that lens in your mind and really just sitting with, I want to feel this beautiful love in my heart for myself and for the loved ones around me. And in this moment, I'm going to spend my time shining that light brightly for everyone else to bask in, irregardless of whether you get, something back that makes you feel the warm and fuzzy or not. And just persevering in a sense, in a soft way, right? Not in the hard way, but persevering in a way that you allow your mind to soften to the situation at hand. There's something bigger at play. There's a reason why it's happening. We don't always know why, and we don't always have to figure it out. Go in with how you want to feel and stick to that feeling and stay with that and shine that out to everyone else. And just keep transmuting as things may or may not happen during the event or gathering, and just allow yourself to be in the moment, right? Be in the moment. Find someone else to go and spend your time with. Avoid, in a sense, your brother-in-law. And I don't mean like, shun them. I just mean like avoid having the interactions that continue to make you feel that way. Go off with one of your nieces, right? And go and do something that help them with maybe a gift that they've received, or an activity that makes you feel that connection. So hopefully that's helpful. I know oftentimes during the holidays, these family issues can be really painful and really difficult. And it's really about shining your light, right? These are the tests and the initiations that we're constantly getting on the ascension journey, where we need to just really feel into what is it that I want to feel, and allowing ourselves to feel that way and allowing ourselves to process. One other thing that does come to mind is I think we do need to also speak our truth, right? And discernment is a big part of this, because it is the holidays and you don't necessarily need to start some big discussion just before you're going to open gifts. It doesn't, you don't need to go head to head with somebody and speak your truth in that moment. But speaking your truth is so important. And maybe it's before, maybe there's a moment during, and maybe it's after. Maybe it's an after reflection where you have a phone call, or you push the envelope and ask them to spend time with you, whether it's a coffee or a lunch or something, and then just find a place in your heart when you're in a neutral state, right? When we're super emotional, that can be really, really bit dodgy. That's why I'm saying use your discernment to know when to go in and speak your truth and say, hey, when this happened, it made me feel this way. And I just want to touch base with you. I just want to understand a little bit more about maybe there's something I could do a little bit differently, or maybe there's something that I'm just completely unaware of. Can you help me? And when we come from that place of really wanting to understand where someone else is coming from, oftentimes it just puts the guards down a little bit. And sometimes they're not ready for it, and they're not ready to talk about it. And then you have to also be ready to accept that too. So as sticky and tricky as family dynamics can be, hang in there and just keep shining your light and showing the way. All right, let's go to the next question. I'm going to take a quick pause. I need to have a little bit of water. All right. The next question is, I found out several years ago that my dad allowed my brother to get away with sexually abusing my sisters. I haven't spoken to him in years because he chooses to not take any accountability for this. Now he's dying of cancer, and I'm wondering if I should visit him one last time. I'm worried if I do that it won't be a good situation, as I won't be able to hold back my anger. How could I go when I know that I would want to harm him emotionally or physically? First of all, good job for having the awareness that you may not be able to remain in a neutral state. I think that's really a great first step. I think identifying with the fact that you have anger is also another really great second step. The only thing you can do is work through your own emotions around this. If you have that amount of anger, then you've got some work to do. And you're going to have to take these people off the cross. It does not mean that you're saying that what they've done is right or that you agree with it. But you have to come to a place where you recognize that hurt people hurt others. And oftentimes that means that people turn a blind eye to things. It's not right. And yes, it would be great if we could hold everybody accountable, but we can't. The only person we can hold accountable is ourselves. Now, with that said, we can certainly speak our truth. I'm not sure from your question if you've done that in the past or not. I'm not sure, what kinds of conversations you've had. Um, there's a thing called timing, and timing sometimes means that someone is not willing or able to get deeply into their own wounds. Oftentimes, when we're ready, bold, courageous, I'm going to go in and I'm going to talk about this and I'm going to share my feelings and I'm going to truth tell. Oftentimes, the other person isn't in that place. I don't know why that dynamic has to happen, but it often does. And so there's something here for you to really see if you can go into that anger and dissolve it to a place where you could go in a neutral state and see your dad. I 100% believe that seeing your dad before he passes is a valuable thing. You may not be able to say anything. You may have to bite your tongue. You might find a way to say something, and you might be surprised at the type of response that you get back. Or not. You might not get any response. It might be because they emotionally can't respond. It might be because they physically are in so much pain that they can't. I think there's an opportunity for you. I'm feeling very strongly that you being in the presence of your father in a very vulnerable state might give you a new perspective. It might give you a new perspective of what it's like to really have empathy for someone else who's in pain. Take that for what it's worth to you. I know that it's challenging, and I know that it's really difficult to think about walking in and not just slaying this other person. If you believe in a higher power, you believe in something outside yourself that's bigger than you, I hope that you do. Because Mother Nature is here every single day telling us that there is an energy, there is a source intelligence that teaches and guides an acorn to grow into an oak tree. That same intelligence is here within you and working with you. It's beating your heart. It's allowing you to breathe. And I hope that you can go in there and ask source intelligence to guide you. That you don't go in there on your own just thinking, I'm going to go in there with my mind and all of my stories. You go in there with your stories, I guarantee you're going to just facilitate more of that story. And that would not be the point. The point would be to go in to transmute a feeling that you're experiencing and to see things from a different lens. I'm not saying you're going to go in and everything's going to change and everything's just going to, be perfectly fine. I'm saying go in there with the possibility that things could shift for you. If you go in there thinking that your dad's going to change all of a sudden or he's going to be different, I think you're going to set yourself up for a big disappointment. Do the work. This is a huge opportunity for you. It's a calling for you to understand the tenderness of being a soul in a body, the tenderness of the terror and drama that happened to a lot of people, oftentimes at a younger age, the trauma that doesn't get resolved and ends up in terrible acts like sexual abuse. I mean, the same for your brother. Again, we're not giving them a spiritual pass saying that it's right to sexually abuse siblings. We're saying that there is something in there. The word evilness comes to mind, right? There's an energy in there that's coming from a darker, lower vibrational place. We're all attached to these lower, darker vibrational places. We've all had many, many lifetimes where we've been in the depths of the darkness, where we've shown the light, right? So wherever we are in this lifetime and our adventure, we do have to recognize that we all still are one. And I know that's a hard concept, but we are. And there's something deeper within each person that they're struggling with, that they've called in this lifetime to work on. And honestly, you've called them in to teach you something too. So nobody's immune here. These are all soul contracts. Get into those soul contracts. Why did I choose my father who's doing X, Y, and Z? Why did I choose this brother who did X, Y, and Z? Figure out why you chose them. That's really the key. If you get that, then you've got it. Then you've got it for all your relationships in life. And that's what they're here to teach you. They're here to get you to go deep, deep, deep within yourself, to get to your demons, to get to your stuff, to get to your love, to get to your light, and let that come up. Not just the darkness. Yes, let the darkness come up, but let it out, right? You're holding it in. That's what I'm getting for you, is you are holding in your own darkness and trying to blame it on them. They got their own stuff, no doubt. But get to yours, because that's what they're offering for you to do, is to see your own darkness and your own, underbelly of shit that is sitting there waiting to be transmuted into the love and light that you actually really are. I hope that's helpful. I'm always open to comments. I'd love to hear what you think and how that shifted you. And thank you for that question. It's a tough one to ask. All right, let's go to the next question. I'm getting divorced for a second time. I'm so over relationships, and yet dying alone doesn't sound so great either. What should I do to get through this one? Second time. First of all, do not judge yourself for how many divorces you've been through. There's a lot of people that don't get married, don't get divorced, but they have incredible relationships and they break apart, and they could be viewed as having 10 marriages, right? Because they've gone into the depths of the relationship. So don't judge yourself about second divorce, right? That's the first main thing, because otherwise you're just going to get stuck in this self-judgment stuff of, what's normal and not normal, and good and bad, and divorce and marriage, and they're all social constructs. They're all ideas that socially we follow so that we can appear to be, normal. Oh, it's normal that you get married and you stay married and no, 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 no. There's no normal here. We're not talking about normal. We're talking about you learning the lessons from the soul contracts that you called in, right? So if you're getting divorced, I would look at not their issues, right? That's what we always want to do, is, oh, well, they. Look at your issues. Look at the pattern. What happened from the first marriage? What happened from the second marriage? What happened from the other relationships that you were in? What's the pattern? What are you asking them to play? Because there's a role that all relationships play in our life. So get to what that pattern is. That would be my very first thing to do. But your pattern, right? Well, you can look at theirs. You can see like what you think they're doing to you, but still you have to come back to the recognition that it's you asking them to reflect an aspect of yourself, right? So get to that, get to what that is, and work on that. And I think if you work on that, you have lots of possibilities for a new relationship to come in. But don't get into a new relationship until you've worked through all of the beautiful lessons you've called that person in to teach you, right? So do that first. Get in there deep. Lily. I've got beautiful Miss Lily in here, and she's making lots of noise in the background, and I love her for that. But so hopefully that's helpful. I think don't judge yourself. Stay in the beauty of knowing that relationships are here to teach us something, and just learn the lessons, right? And then as you learn the lessons, then you don't have to keep attracting the same types of relationships that are going to cause you the same level of strife. All right, let's get to the next question. Any advice on creating a boundary bubble when in large crowds, parties, and events? Yes. First of all, before you walk into a party, sit in a moment of meditation and take a deep breath into your belly, just in through your nose and deeply into your belly. And just feel your awareness anchored there. And in that moment, also feel the radiation of a beautiful white light exuding from your third chakra, your belly area. And just stay really anchored in that, and just pause. Just pause before you're going in somewhere. Maybe you're sitting in the car, and you're like, oh, I'm just going to take a moment and just because you've been busy trying to get there and, maybe you're running late or whatever the issue is. Sit, pause, breathe. And then when you're in the party or in the event or at the concert or wherever it is, then when you have that moment of like, I'm just feeling like people are bumping me, they're pushing me, they're, all of those emotions and stuff that comes at you, right? Especially if you're super sensitive. It's like, it just hits you and you're like, I need to get out of here. You don't necessarily need to get out of there. I'm like, look, if you want to, do. But it's like coming back to that bubble of just like, let me just center myself here and just allow in a healthy way to just deflect, right? Just put that little, you said it, bubble around yourself, that little white, bright glow of just like, and allow everything to happen and take place externally around you without letting it get into you. Sometimes I know this, I feel like it makes me sound old, but I wear earplugs and spin class all the time just because they play the music so darn loud. And so now I found that I just sort of accidentally had earplugs in one of my handbags, and I went to a concert and it was so loud and I was so happy to have earplugs. So something so simple as that too, right? Just having something that maybe just helps you from the physical noise. And the other thing is the opposite of that. Like, if you always have earbuds in your ears, take them out and give yourself a break from listening to stuff that's loud and just listening like it's overstimulation, right? So we have to practice these mindfulness things in our everyday life, not just when we get stressed at a party or an event, but that we think about like, how much am I putting into my ear? Like all day long, like how much is going in? And maybe, and this is kind of going off into like your normal day, but maybe it's just taking one more meeting off your calendar. Maybe it's taking one less coffee off your calendar with a friend, unless it's a friend that's very grounding and, but if it's someone who is going to drain you more than fill your cup, then maybe you just say, yeah, I'm going to use a little discernment here and I'm just going to release myself from that. So create your own bubble and take your bubble with you. And people are going to come and try to poke at it and say, can I get in there? Can I get in there? Especially when they see how peaceful you are. And that's where you just say, yeah, this is my bubble right now. And I'm willing to share this much with you, whatever that is, wherever you're at, right? I'm going to glow my light out there. And I'm going to, I'm going to really just be present with who I am. One other thing that comes to mind, I was at a small gathering last night. And, I recognize that when I show up, I really love to show up, and I show up in a way where I'm present and I'm listening. And then there was a moment where I was in my own mind, right? And I was like kind of evaluating the different people and the different parts. And there's nothing good or bad about either scenario. But then I was like, wait, come back to presence of listening to the story that they're telling, just to be in this moment right now, which has no meaning. It doesn't have to have any meaning, right? And then I looked over at someone else and I realized, oh, wow, they are super in their mind right now. Like I can just tell, like they were rubbing their forehead or doing something. And I'm like, wow, I can totally tell that you are not present with the conversation that's happening. And there's a narrative running in your mind, right? So watch for those things. Just start to have that mindfulness of like, oh, I'm not present. Let me get present in this moment, just being part of the energies that are here and at play, not in the stories and the narratives of my own mind. When you start doing that, you're going to start to realize, whoa, there's a lot of stuff going on in there. And you're going to be able to start quieting some of that and asking some of those voices in your head to just quiet down, right? It's like, it's always get to that ego mind in the back seat and let the soul drive. Because when we're listening to those voices, then we're not listening to our heart. We're not listening to our body. We're not listening to our gut. We're not listening to like how we feel somatically. The mind can come on so strong. So let it sit in the back seat and keep your heart open, keep your glow open with discernment and create your own bubble. All right, let's go to the next question. One moment. The next question. I have a high libido and partners who do too. However, after the first year, it seems that this changes and then they aren't interested as much. Not even in kissing. I know that they love me and we become great companions, but I end up breaking it off because I need more. How can I avoid this happening again, or how do I keep them interested in having sex? There's several things here. There's a 7 stages of sex or intimacy, of love. It starts out with the attraction and limerence, right? Where that chemistry is so strong. And so there's a lot of chemical imbalance and balance at the same time that can happen in between couples, and it can just feel euphoric, right? It's that place where you can move mountains, and you ever hear about the 1 year honeymoon period? It's kind of like that, right? Where you've got that everything's great, but all along the way you're building a little bit of a dossier against the person about the things that you don't like, or the things that they do that hurt you, or there's all these little things that kind of start to come into play. So number one, be aware of the judgments that you may be building against someone unknowingly, that then energetically impact that libido. But the other thing that comes forward, and maybe this is very specific to the energy coming through of the person asking this question, is I would also really sit with yourself on what is it about the sexual part. This, you said you had a high libido, and what is it that is creating that connection, which I'm not going to say is good, bad, or ugly. It's really about being in union with another person. It's not just about the physical act of having sex, right? But it's the depth of the union that you're building together. And if that union isn't locking in, then there's, I believe, a bit of a disparity in the soul connection. So if you have the union, the sex part doesn't go away. If you have just the sexual chemistry, then the sex part can go away quite easily, because the lustfulness inevitably kind of wears off. But if you are soulfully connected with your partner and you're really going into deeper aspects of yourself, that union aspect is going to keep your libido, I'm not going to say high, but I think at a really beautiful balance. And it's not going to go away. It's only going to get stronger, and it's going to feel like a deeper bonding. So it sounds like in this situation you may have a sexual bond but not a soulful bond. Yes, you can still be companions with a sexual bond, but your companionship is built on the sexual aspect and the physical touch aspect, not necessarily that you're doing the deeper soulful work that builds this intimate, deeply intimate bond, right? So there's a big difference here. I hope that's coming through. In your next relationship, first of all, don't get intimate with someone until you understand your level of vulnerability that you're willing to go into the relationship with, and their level of vulnerability of which they're willing to go with you. Because if they're not going to go in and be super soulful, then that limerence, that chemistry, the lust, and all that, it's going to go away. It's going to go away. So evaluate your next partner. Maybe evaluate's not the right word. Just soulfully observe yourself and your level of ability to be vulnerable. And if you find that, oh, I'm putting up roadblocks, then ding, ding, ding. You might not want to have a sexually intimate relationship with that particular person. So feel deeply into that. 30, 60, 90 days, right? Where you're just a year, where you're just waiting it out to see, and you're building the foundation of the relationship based on your soul vulnerability as opposed to your lustful ideations about what relationships are all for. If you dig into that, you're going to find that you're going to build a much stronger soulful bond with your mate as opposed to sexual chemistry. Okay, let's go to the next question. I have so much to offer the world, and yet I feel like I'm not being utilized in my purpose. How do I transcend my mind, constantly seeing the disparity? This is a huge topic right now, especially for light workers. I think anyone who is on a deeply spiritual, soulful path and wanting to really, really be in their purpose, and if you're feeling like you're not, it's divine timing. There's an element of divine timing. There's an element of perhaps some additional residual work that needs to be worked through. And there's being in the flow of it versus controlling it. I'm the queen of wanting to make things happen. I don't always want to control things per se, but I want to have an outcome. If I do this, then that. It's one of the things that I learned so beautifully from the Balinese, right? I have this Western thinking of, if then thinking. My corporate life taught me it. If I do this, then, and here's 5 options that can help me with the strategy of implementing this, whatever this is, right? So it's a very linear thinking. It's a very prepared thinking. It's a way of thinking that we get very rewarded for today in today's world. However, it's not where we need to be when it comes to fitting in, slipping in to our purpose. And the word surrender comes forward, that it's still another level of surrender, right? That you're taking that inspired action, you're doing the work, you're feeling the emotions, you're appropriately transmuting the emotions, which means that you're not just shoving them away or shoving them down, but you're holding them up for observation and feeling and shining them to the light, right? You're taking those emotions and saying, okay, I'm offering them to the light. And it might take you longer than you think to have that all transmuted so that it's gone and that you're embodied on another level of vibration. And welcoming that waiting period, that pause period, that I'm terrible at this too. I'm terrible at patience a lot of times, right? Like I'm a master manifester. I want things to happen. I want da da da. So I'm speaking to myself as much as the person that asked the question. But we want to be in that surrender. We want to be in that divine trust that everything is happening for a reason. And another thing that comes to mind is to just stop asking so many questions. The questions come from the mind. I'm not saying questions have to be bad. I'm just saying that questions keep you in your mind as opposed to accepting what is, right? Just really accepting what is in this moment and also being grateful for what is in this moment. It can be a struggle or it can be a choice where we just allow spirit to flow through us. And a great reminder of spirit flowing through us is when we just sit with our breath and we just allow it to come in and come out, right? We know this. We know that when we're scared, that our breath becomes shallow and it's constricted. And we know that when we're relaxed and when we're kids and our belly's out, right? We're just breathing away in there. That's the way that we allow ourselves to be in the flow. So get out of all the constructs of we got to have our belly sucked in, we got to be prepared, we've got to be, It's like, no, just we got to get into the ease of being in our bodies and use the bubble that we talked about in a few questions earlier to just allow ourselves to be at that ease even when things are crumbling and crazy all around us, because that's what we're being prepared for moving into the next several years, is creating that real grounded light filled bubble that can be a light for others, but first and foremost is the light within ourselves so that we follow our own soul's plan. And when we do that and we become brighter and our vibration raises, then we can invite others to follow. And I don't mean follow in the sense of a leader necessarily, but follow in the sense of, I want to go deeper within myself. I see you doing it. I feel how that feels, and I want that for myself. Right. And so you can take a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Remember that old saying? It's kind of like that. We can't heal our brothers and sisters. We can show them how we've done it ourselves. We can show them how we're in it in every moment, but we can't do it for them. So it's a really important thing for all of us to get. I know I diversified a little bit from the question, which is, being utilized for your purpose, but it's coming. And the more that we focus on just being in it, not the thought it's coming, because then it's just still always coming, right? It's never here. Like, I'm right here right now, and I'm feeling it right now. Show me the way. And connecting and staying connected to source energy, source intelligence, and knowing that there is a bigger plan, your soul's plan that you created before coming in, and that you're committed to living it, and then let that unfold and appreciate every moment that you're in. There's something there for us, something teaching us in every moment, every interaction, every emotion. Yeah, stick with it. We're all getting there, and it's all opening. And I do believe that love is the new currency. How rich are you? And that all has to do with our own ability to go deep into that self-love within ourselves. Okay, we're getting down to the hour here, and I've got another question. I feel like there was another one I might have missed, but let's see. Okay, question number 9. I self-soothe with food when I'm emotionally upset. Why is that my go-to, and how do I stop that? A couple of things come to mind. One is our gut bacteria has so much more to do with our emotional being than we give it, because that gut instinct comment, right? Like, oh, I had a gut instinct about that. It's actually more than what you think it is, because you've got microbiome in your gut. You've got bacteria that are communicating, and it is your first brain. So your gut is communicating to your brain all the time. That's where cravings come in, right? And so a lot of times when you're food soothing, there's a comfort associated with it, maybe from childhood, right? Something that you did when you were little, something that you ate that made you feel good. And now you want to go back to that feeling of feeling good, even though you're not necessarily associating like, oh, I ate this. I ate chocolate cake when I was little and I felt good. It's like, no, it's just innately within you, something that got programmed when you were young. And so it's like, oh, it's comfort food. It's sometimes it's just the taste. Sometimes it's that your gut bacteria is like, eat chocolate cake. And then you're eating chocolate cake and trying to serve that gut bacteria. I promise you, if you've ever done a cleanse, meaning you've cut out all carbs, sugars, alcohol, caffeine, if you've really cleaned up your gut bacteria, it is a natural high. And why we can't do it more naturally every single day is a mystery, and yet not, right? It's not a mystery because we have socially so many temptations, and it's can be harder sometimes to be out and about and eat super squeaky clean and healthy, which just means fruits, vegetables, everything that Mother Nature gives us, right? Eliminating the processed foods. I think if you do that, you're going to find that these food cravings and this emotional eating is going to shift dramatically, because those bacteria also carry a lot of memory. They carry memory of emotional things. And so when that dies off and you have healthy gut bacteria, probiotics are also incredibly helpful. I think you probably pretty much in today's age need to take some level of probiotic to help your good gut bacteria win over all the bad, because of all just the chemicals that we take in, the chemicals we breathe in, the chemicals we put on our skin and our hair in the cleansing process. Um, all of that has an impact on our overall immunity in our bodies. So we want to get squeaky clean and raise our vibrations. And I think those food cravings are gonna just dissipate on their own. But again, if you know that your go-to is, let's say, ice cream, then don't have ice cream in the house and have something else in place of it. So immediately when your mind says ice cream, say apple or pear, right? And then you have the apple and pears in your house so that you can actually go eat them instead. I used to go get this ginger molasses cookie. Oh God, it was so good. I still do every once in a while, but like I got on this like, oh my God, every day I felt like I was going and craving to go. It was like a ritual. Like Lily and I would go walking downtown to get this cookie. And I realized, wait a second, like this sugar is just too much for me. And so I said, stop the pattern. But my gut bacteria was so ingrained in this. And so I had to just make a real conscious effort to say, every day when I get that craving for the cookie around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm going to eat an apple. I'm going to put a little cinnamon on it, and it's going to feel like apple pie. Of course, it's not quite like apple pie, but it tastes great and it feels good. And my energy level is more balanced and even than having, a sugar high or a sugar low. So yeah, really, really, really think about your gut bacteria. Um, Start now. You don't have to worry about the holidays. Start now, start in the new year. Um, if it's the first of the month, start at the beginning of a month. If you're watching this video at the beginning of a month, just start now, but just make some real solid statements to yourself of what it is you're going to do to get your gut bacteria in order. And you're going to find that your whole mental state changes dramatically in a really wonderful way. All right. We are down to the end here. I have enjoyed all of your questions. I thank you so much. If you've liked any part of this, please subscribe, like this video, hit the bell, and you'll get notifications each week when the show starts at 11:11 Pacific time. I very much enjoy all the questions you submit, and I hope you do too. Please comment below if you have any questions or any comments about the show, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.